So let's go ahead and get started here. So this idea, right, of manifest destiny, okay, as, right, the American economy and population grew, the country was in need of more land, and that's why we see Americans looking westward to settle, right? Pretty much the eastern part of the United States was not becoming overpopulated, but they were running out of room, right? People wanted more land to settle. They wanted new opportunities, and so they're looking where to that the only place to really go, which is west. So many Americans believed it was their destiny, their America's manifest destiny, right, or obvious fate. It was obvious America was destined to do this. Okay, they were destined to settle all the way to the Pacific Ocean in order to spread American ideals. Okay, American beliefs, American dreams, right, their way of life. And so in the 1840s and 50s, okay, it did become tied with slavery, especially in the idea of once more states started to come into the country, right? They were determining whether it was going to be a slave state or not. Okay, and especially we'll see later on, not next unit, but pretty much right when we get back from spring break, we'll see kind of how that exactly was. President John Tyler, he wanted to annex Texas to increase the power of the slave states. Remember, yesterday, Andrew Jackson, okay, so John Tyler is going to be the 10th president, so 3 presidents after, okay, do we find it? Good. So 3 presidents, thank you, Madeline, after Jackson, okay, right, Jackson was worried about adding Texas to the United States because it would upset that balance of free and slave states, especially in Congress, where it really mattered. Braylon, if you need to move, you may do so. That seat is probably the worst seat in the House. So in the 1844 election, okay, so, right, this concept of whether to add, free or slave states really became an important topic, especially during elections and this election of 1844. And so, right, because we see Democrat James K. Polk defeated Henry Clay in the presidential election, where both candidates strongly favored acquiring Oregon, right, the Oregon country, and Texas, as in like acquiring, make a state. Right, so it really became a hot topic in elections coming about whether to make these states that are joining free or slave. Are we good with this slide? Okay. So I just want to show this picture. This is probably one of the most famous pictures with this term manifest destiny. And we're going to look more at this, and you're actually going to do an assignment on this picture on Thursday. Okay. But what's happening in the picture? Let's raise our hand. Let's raise our hand, please, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Javier?
So I guess that like the person in the middle, like the lady,
Okay.
represent like America, starting with ideas and technology and whatnot.
Okay, because what is she doing? What are these things?
The telegraph wires that are basically precursor to radio. They made it so like if you are in Oregon, you're settling down, and you want to give your grandma a letter, you don't have to spend a year having to walk to New York. You can just go
Yeah.
and get it.
The sounds, I like the sounds. It's very, no, like, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Like, those actually sound like a telegraph sound, right? Okay, so what do you think this side represents? Okay, they're rivers. Okay, settlers, they're built up technology. Look at railroads, right? Okay, they're plowing the lands. What colors do we see? Bright colors, right? Bright colors. Like it looks very sunny. Like you're just focusing on this half, right? The right half. Okay, bright colors, right? Okay, and they're moving now this way. What about this side? Dark. What's happening? The Native Americans are being driven out, right? Okay, and we see all these different ways they're moving. And right, isn't trying to? They're bringing the light to the darkness. Do you see how this is showing that? Right, they're bringing the American, like Javier was saying, American ideals to the West. Okay. So after winning the election, Polk quickly set out to annex Texas and Oregon. Okay, to annex something means to control, take over, right? Absorb it into the country. Well, Britain and the United States disagreed over where to draw the United States-Canadian border, especially right in that Oregon country. Remember doing that Oregon country assignment yesterday? What was that line called? Anyone remember?
40 or 4440.
It's close. You got the numbers right. 5440. 5440. Remember, you had to draw that line. Okay. And so, American expansionists, right? They were crying this 5440 or fight, right? We get this line. This is where the border is, or we fight, right, to represent that border. Eventually, the United States and Britain signed a treaty giving all Oregon land south of the 49th parallel to the U.S. It is still the border today. So if you were to go back at that assignment that we did last week, okay, you'll see, and even right here, you can see that this is right here, the 49th parallel line. I'm sorry?
And in like a year or two, the United States will now have its modern day borders.
Yeah, sort of. We're gonna be talking. That's pretty much what after today's we're seeing all the borders besides for, of course, Hawaii and Alaska, because those don't come until much later. So in 1845, Congress approved the annexation of Texas. Texas, right, hoped that joining the United States would help their financial and military problems. However, this is going to anger the Mexican government, especially because, one, they didn't even recognize that Texas was independent, and now that, right, the United States is going to control it, this is definitely going to anger them. All right, are we good? Okay. We good now? Oh, okay. Okay. Let's look at your pages when we're done so we can. We're going to just do 2 more slides today. And then we'll finish this up tomorrow. You're being weird. Alright. So, right, disputes or arguments over these territories were relatively easy in the Pacific Northwest, right? We see Britain and the United States quickly kind of signed a treaty. However, those arguments in the Southwest of the borders were not so diplomatic. Diplomatic means so official, so easy, right? How, like I just said, Britain and the United States were easily able to come to a treaty and settle, okay, that, right, easily. Okay, in the Southwest, it was not like that. So Mexico and the United States long disagreed, right, on the border between the two. What was each border? I mean, even if we think back to yesterday's notes, right, remember that map I put on the screen, how there was all those lines through that area is a disputed territory. It was disputed who argued over who actually controlled that. And if we remember, Mexico also refused to recognize Texas annexation by the United States, stating that their northern border, okay, so the Mexico's northern border was further north than the U.S. would recognize. Okay, so basically they're having arguments over where the borders were, who was in control of what territory. So President Polk sent John Slidell to Mexico City to try to purchase New Mexico and California, but Mexican officials refused to speak with him. So they're just like flat out refusing. I mean, that's what we're saying is not so diplomatic. They weren't able to just talk things out and settle it. You tell me when we're good, okay? Okay. Okay, cool. So in March 1846, General Zachary Taylor led his troops to the Rio Grande. Okay, so the Rio Grande is the river actually that is the border of current-day Texas and Mexico. It is that border between the two. But they camped across the Rio Grande from Mexican forces near Matamoros, Mexico. In April, we see the two sides clashing, with several Americans being killed. And then shortly after, Congress is going to declare officially war on Mexico. So we are officially at war with Mexico. So that's going to be it for today. Again, I didn't want to be bombarding. I want to make sure we have enough time to, stop and whatnot. Okay, so what I want you to do is just screenshot what you have done, submit that for part 1 in the assignment. We will do part 2 tomorrow. Okay, and then tomorrow also we are going to watch the Mexican American Brain Pop video, just the video. We're not going to do any quiz or anything with it, because then actually you're going to get in groups, and you as a group are going to make a quiz over lesson 2, and then you're going to take another group's quiz. So, okay, just kind of give you a heads up for tomorrow.